That's what I'm talking about, son. Get you some of that daggone pie.
Woo-hoo! Looky there. There's your bug-eyed big one right there.
Getting started. We're getting started.
Here's what I'm talking about. Gosh dang gorilla.
Let's go, baby. Straight meat. God, look at that big one.
All right, everybody. Hey, welcome into the BAM Pod. I'm your host, Big Ed, and right now on the line, I've got our West Coast Apex Tour champion, Luke Johns. Luke, welcome into the show, man.
Hey, thanks for having me back. I know it's been a while since we talked, but you know.
Yeah, I promised back then that if you won one of these tournaments, I was going to have you back on, and here you are right now. You went out there, you made me put you back on the show, so I'm a man of my word.
Well, it took me a little while, but finally knocked one down.
Hey, and if there's one to knock down, I guess becoming the champ would be the one, right?
So that's definitely the one that I've been wanting to knock off, because I know I talked about it on stage, but I've won an AOY and a regular season event, so that a championship was the next one in the sights to go for. So thankfully it all worked out.
Now, I'm going to ask this question right off the bat. So now you've done it here in the West Coast. Do you have any plans to leave the West Coast and head east and start putting yourself on the line for some of the bigger events? Are you going to follow in Mark Daniels' footsteps, that sort of thing?
Yeah, no, that's definitely been creeping up on me, in the back of my mind more and more in the recent timeline. So right now I'm in school, so I've got to finish my degree at Sac State.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got that through I think I should graduate in fall. So as soon as that's done, I think that's going to be my time where I really start to look at it and start to plan. So if everything works out, I'll probably do 2 more seasons here. And then, if everything aligns for me to move back there, then I definitely want to give it a shot.
And what degree are you going for?
Business marketing. I figured
Yes.
I did pick it because of fishing too, because I figured, as I was told a long time ago from one of the guys that kind of mentored me, Justin Lucas, he told me, the fishing game is 70% marketing, 30% fishing. So I figured best degree I could go for is marketing.
Absolutely. Great advice from a great fisherman himself in his own right. And you're going to find out in this industry that marketing and learning how to get up on those stages and get up in front of people and do commercials and sell people's product is how you're going to get ahead in this business. Everybody I've talked to on these shows, that's one of the questions I ask them is, what advice do you give to the young kids kind of coming up and learning how to, work business, how to manage your money, how to earn that money through marketing, advertising, and working with these businesses. That's how you get ahead. And one of the things I said in there was, as the youth coming up. So how old are you?
I'm 23.
23 years old. You've been fishing out here on the West Coast in larger events, and you won a big event when you were how old?
I won the New Melones Pro-Am when I was 20.
So you've been going for 3 years, basically, at a very high level. And, I kind of want to give you this window to kind of tell people who you are and tell your story a little bit, because it's a really good story of what you've done and what people can do in this sport if they dedicate themselves to it.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start it from when I first started getting into fishing, which was, honestly, before I could really remember. I was fishing with my grandpa up in the streams when I was just, basically a toddler, trout fishing. And I kind of fell in love with it there. And then I realized living in Folsom, there's not stream fishing. And I didn't want to go sit at the lake and throw a power bait or throw a bobber for trout. So I stumbled across bass fishing, and I realized pretty quickly that there were a bunch of ponds, right around my house, basically, that I could go fish at. And I had a kayak, or my parents had kayaks that I'd take out, and my dad would go drop me off at these ponds and stuff. And I'd either walk the bank or take one of the kayaks, and some of my buddies would go with me. and I just started pond fishing, and then really started to kind of get into that, and then heard about tournament bass fishing. And then, next thing I knew, I was kind of getting ready to go into high school, and I had heard about high school fishing. And the high school that I went to, Vista del Lago, didn't have a club at the time. So I ended up starting my own club there, and ran it for all 4 years. And that was really kind of the first stepping stone into the tournament stuff. And I mean, if you're a young angler looking to get into fishing, especially, the middle school to high school range, that is by far the best avenue that I could recommend anybody, because you get to fish against people that are to you in skill range. And I mean, of course, there are some great fishermen in the high school stuff. I mean, it's astonishing, some of the bags those kids catch. But, you don't have to go fish against Ken Ma or, all the other guys that fish these pro-ams and Apex and all that stuff. So you don't have to, take the learning curve kicks as hard. You don't have to donate too much of your money in that one. So I did that. And then simultaneously, I was fishing the California Tournament Trail, which I got lucky enough. The guy who ran it, Bill Cook, he was a really nice guy, and he let me into the tournaments actually a year before, or a year early, because you're supposed to be 16 to go into them. And he let me fish them starting when I was 15 as a co-angler. And those were shared weight events. And I think that really set me up very well moving forward, because I got to get in the boat with some of the best fishermen on the West Coast. I mean, back then those tournaments used to draw some super good fishermen. Right. And you'd be out on the back of their boat, and the great thing about the shared weight is they want you to catch fish. So they were very giving with information. It was never, because I fish the pro-ams now, and you're fishing against your co-angler. So I mean, no offense to any of my co's, but I don't want to exactly everything that's going on, because you can't, you don't want to sacrifice too much of your information and have them smoke you out of the back of the boat. So and they wanted you to catch fish. So it was like, we're going to this rock pile, like cast right over there, cast over my shoulder, use this bait here, take these, that sort of stuff. So that really helped. And then also just being in the back of the boat and watching somebody break down a day in a tournament setting is so crucial to understand, because there's so much more that goes into it when you're fishing the front of the boat rather than the back of the boat. You got to have good time management. You got to have fish management. You got to have the whole day planned out ahead of time, which as a co-angler, you kind of just get to show up and fish. But if you're smart about it, you should really be paying attention to what that guy on the front of the boat is doing, and kind of try to understand his thought process for the day. Because when you get into those situations, it helps you out a lot to know, okay, I watched that guy do this and I liked that. Or, maybe you watched a guy do something that didn't go well, and you're like, okay, I got to remember to not do that when I go out. So, there's a lot of information to be had out of the back of the boat. And I think that's one of the best ways to learn. So I fished the back end of those pro-ams, and then after, or still going on, I was fishing. I had gotten into college at that point, and Wild West ended up having their college series. So that was really nice when they had it. So they let you fish with somebody from any school as long as you were a student. You didn't have to have a club, which was nice for me because I was going to community college. I didn't want to start my own club because it's kind of a process. And I ended up doing pretty well in those. I won the championship for that, and they awarded us co-angler entry fees for the Pro-Am series, which kind of on the fence whether I was going to fish the co-side or the pro side going into that year. And then when I won the championship and won those entry fees, I decided, I could basically fish the pro side for half the cost, because I talked to the guys at Wild West and they were kind enough to let me just use that kind of as a credit for my pro entries. So I fished them, for half off, which, being a college student, and trying to afford, a $800+ entry fee is not very easy.
Right.
But yeah, so I got to do that and stepped up to the front of the boat that year in 2020. and I was thankful enough to win my second event I ever fished, which was that Pro-Am on Maloney's. And that really gave me, just the financial ability to really pursue the stuff, or pursue all the tournaments, and, have all the gear you need, and not have to worry about money all the time. And then also it boosted the confidence level tenfold, because, going into that year, I was pretty scared at what I was getting myself into. So to know that I could win, it wasn't all, bluebird skies and perfect after that, but it at least told me, I can do this, if everything aligns correctly.
Definitely. That's always going to raise your confidence level quite a bit. Through that whole thing, and you kind of saying how you came up, how you got there, one of the things that really sticks out of my head about, when you actually win a tournament, a lot of guys go a long time without winning anything major. What did you learn, I guess, the most about how it feels, and what you have to actually do, what you have to sacrifice, what you need to take that win? Because winning is not an easy thing in this sport. There's 100 guys out there. Your odds of winning are 1 in 100, or 1 in whoever's in that tournament. It's not easy. This isn't the easiest sport to win all the time in. What did you really decide or figure out and go, you know what, this is how much work I have to put in?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a ton of work. There's been, being a college student, and, being younger in itself, just, I want to spend time with my friends, or go hang out, do whatever they're all doing on the weekends. But a lot of the times, I kind of have to sacrifice those things in order to, go to a tournament, or just go practice on the water, because it's definitely a sport where you're born with some, it seems like there's some good guys that are kind of born with the natural ability. And, I kind of feel like I got a little blessed with some of the natural instinct things, but it definitely requires, a lot of time. It's just like any profession, that if you want to get good, you got to put in a lot of work and a lot of time. And, also fishing's expensive, so you got to put a lot of money into it. So that means, kind of had to sacrifice, going on trips, or, spending money on whatever else, because, I got to pay entry fees. I got to, rig the boat out. I got to buy a boat,
Yeah.
all that crazy stuff. So, it's definitely a lot of sacrifice. And then I think, the biggest thing mentally about winning, that I learned, was just trusting, everything that you've learned, and, really trusting your instinct and your gut to, guide you correctly. Because, there's no textbook that you can read that's going to tell you, if you go throw, your crankbait, in this area, on this lake, this time of year, you're going to win the tournament. Very rarely does, the textbook actually align with what's actually happening on the water. So you've got to put in a lot of time and a lot of effort in order to figure that out for yourself. And then come game day, tournament day, you got to be able to have the confidence to trust yourself that you're going to make the right decisions on the water. And yeah, so getting that first win really was like, okay, I did something way outside of the box, which I think really helped me a lot too. I was throwing a crankbait at the end of February. Water was cold. Nobody else was doing it. And it was, something that a tournament, if somebody told me that I was going to win my first event on a crankbait, I would have told them they were crazy. Cause I barely fished crankbaits before that. I had probably put a couple days on the water, really throwing a crankbait, and to win an event doing something that you don't normally do really boost your confidence. Like, okay, maybe, even though I don't really, have the complete understanding, I'm not a master of it, if I find something that I think is going to work, I shouldn't favor from that just because I'm not completely comfortable in it. So yeah, that definitely helped the confidence boost a lot.
I was going to say, are you a little more comfortable with crankbaits now?
Yeah, I am, definitely. I will still say that is probably one of my lesser thrown baits. I'm up really finesse fishy, so I'm like really comfortable with a spinning rod in my hand.
Yeah.
And over the last 2 years, I've really kind of branched into the power fishing thing and gotten a lot more comfortable with it, but it's not my strong suit, I wouldn't say.
Yeah. One of the things you said in there too was that you kind of worked your way up, and now you're thinking about going into the plans of going. What has the benefit been to a lot of people don't know what the Apex Tour is, and it's brand new. It's I don't want to say it's brand new, but it's pretty new out here in the West Coast. And it was. Why don't you tell people a little bit about what the Apex is, because everybody's used to hearing about MLF, Bassmaster, so the professional fishing league now, all the different, bigger, well-known. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Apex and what has allowed you to do, coming up and learning how to, become that professional angler?
Bass Angler Magazine is your guide to better bass fishing. Bass Angler is dedicated to helping you catch more and bigger bass no matter what time of year or where you live. This is not your ordinary fishing magazine. Every issue is jam-packed with 30-plus articles from the world's best bass anglers. Bass Angler Magazine is available at bassanglermag.com, Tackle Warehouse, Bass Pro Shops, Cabela's, Gander Mountain, Walmart, and better tackle shops everywhere. Bass Angler also makes a great gift for any angler. Get Bass Angler today and start catching more bass tomorrow. Visit bassanglermag.com or your favorite tackle shop. This is not your ordinary fishing magazine. bassanglermag.com.
Yeah, so the idea of Apex was that the West Coast doesn't truly have a professional level series. And we kind of get ignored by the big series like MLF and Bass by, of course we've got the MLF, Toyota series and that stuff, but, we don't get the big tours that ever come out here, and we don't really have a way to qualify for the big tours as easily as if you lived, somewhere back east. So Wild West had the idea that they were going to, take a stab at creating their own version of, a professional tour for West Coast anglers, which is an extremely bold and crazy move to do because, sadly, the West Coast is not fishing in general as, back east. We're not the country boys that they are that, live and die fishing for the most part, but, there are the select few of us that really love it. So they have this idea. We're going to make a professional tour. And that first year we had 30 guys that got invited to fish it. I was thankful enough to be one of them. And they have a really cool way of how the tournament works. And I know everybody always complains it's really confusing, but I mean, if you break it down, it's really, really simple. The first 2 days of the event are the qualifying days. And you go for, one of two categories in order to qualify for the last day, either keeper count or total weight. So, you got half of it, the keeper count. So we have an app called TourneyX that we upload every single keeper size bass that we catch onto an app, and it records it. And then, of course, you bring in your biggest five, just like you would in any other tournament, and they weigh those. So then at the end of 2 days, they take the top five in keepers and the top five in weight. And the way they do the standings, since I know this is another one that always confuses people, is they start with weight. So first place weight, let's say they got 30 pounds for 2 days, they're first place. And then they'll take whoever has the second highest, or the highest keeper count after that. So, and then they'll zigzag back and forth, weight keepers. And of course, the first place guy, a lot of the times is leading both keeper count and weight. So of course, they'll get taken for weight first. So then it's just the next guy in keeper count who gets pulled up for that. So, so it's pretty simple. I know it's when you're watching it, and it's a little hard to tell who's in the top 10 right after weigh-in, because they got to, tally up all the fish.
Right.
But it is on, the general idea is pretty simple. And it allows a really interesting way to fish a tournament, because you can bomb the first day and, you might be totally out of it weight wise. You might have to catch 30 pounds to get inside the top 10. And, you're kind of thinking to yourself, well, that's, almost impossible. You're going to need a miracle, but you might stumble onto that school of fish where you can catch, 20 fish throughout the day and you skyrocket up the leaderboards. I think our first regular season event that we had on Almanor, I'm pretty sure John Pearl had like 2 fish the first day, and he caught like 25 or something like that the second day. He was basically dead last after the first day and shot all the way up inside the top 10 because he totally changed his game plan up and, made the right decisions to go catch a bunch of keepers. So it offers a really fun way to fish because you're never really out of it, which is, it's a cool way to do it. And it provides a lot more excitement. Fishing tournaments, you kind of get used to the stuff. The butterflies almost go away. The nervousness goes away. But I remember that first year fishing Apex, I was more excited for it than anything because, it's just a whole nother twist and turn. You've always got a shot at making it in. So it's a lot of fun to fish.
Oh yeah, I've watched a few and seen how they run, and like you said, in the end result, they are pretty simple to go through. But it is a different format. Do you feel like you're a complete West Coast guy? Do you feel like this can become a tour level? I want by tour level, I really mean one that's comparable to the MLF, the Bassmaster. Do you think this can go that way out here in the West Coast?
I think it can. It's got some odds against it just because, like I said earlier, the West Coast isn't as, fishing oriented as back east, just like the general population, I'm meaning.
Yeah.
So harder to get the amount of eyeballs that those big series have back there. But I think the way it's going, we have some of the best fishermen in the country. I think you could put a lot of these guys back there on those lakes back east, and you give them a year or two to warm up and they'd be doing just as good as most of those guys on the tour. So it's got the right quality of fishermen. We have really cool lakes that we can show off, and Wild West, they've got the camera crew, they've got the media outlets, and now it's just about building it. And of course, it's going to take a lot of time to do it. It's not going to happen in one season. It's just impossible. So really what just has to happen is they just have to keep chipping away at it. And we just need the support of, companies, for sponsorship wise, if we want to grow it. And then on top of that, you need, the bodies, whether it's, fans. And then on top of that, just the general fishing community needs to kind of get behind it and, promote it and help support it, So I think it's got the chance to grow and be one of the big tours. It's just the stars kind of have to align for it, and hopefully everything works out.
Well, thanks for saying all of that, because I think that's always been the biggest truth is we need the support out here more than anything. That's really what comes about is the support for not only that tour, but for the sport in general. But I think that breaks down the Apex pretty good. What it can offer and what it can do out here. If like you said, we do get the support, we do get the big companies to come in and go, hey, let's see what we can push this thing into. So let's talk a little bit about the championship. You make it all the way to the championship. It's on Folsom Lake, which is, Sacramento's, basically the Sacramento area's premier lake. But it's not known for, really good fishing all the time. I mean, it's a tough lake to fish. You go out there.
Definitely.
Break down how you kind of, when you first get there, how much fishing time, as far as practice do you have for the championship? Because that's one of the things about Apex that I think is very interesting.
Yeah. So they announced the championship, I think sometime in December, and per our rules, we have a 30-day information and off limits fishing for the lake. So Basically we had 3 weeks before it went in off limits, I think. And thankfully I live right across the street from the lake in one of the neighborhoods. So it's a real short drive to get over the lake, but they announced it. And literally, I think it was the week after we started having, our winter, and all the storms started showing up. The lake turned to chocolate milk. The water was going up and down, 3 or 4 feet a day. So it was like basically completely pointless to go out there. I think I went out there one day right after they announced it. And then I was basically like, okay, this is just, there's no point in me going out here. It's just going to spin me out. So I pretty much put in no practice for it. And then, of course, with Apex, we don't actually have a real practice period either.
Right.
We just start Friday morning, it's blast off and it's game on. But I will say, street from the lake, I fished this place. So I felt pretty comfortable going into it. I fish summer tournaments out here all the time. We have our Wednesday nighters. So, I usually put 2 days on the water out here when the weather's good.
So, the way you just said that, I think that's something that people don't understand all the time about the West Coast and our lakes and the way they fish. But, those lakes, Folsom Lake came up, like you said, probably 25, 30, 40 feet. And then also went back down another 20, went back up 10 feet. It was the variable of all of it out here on the West Coast is how much these lakes come up, how much they can, it's like, oh, wait, they're too high. Cause it was basically right before the tournament, it was almost full. And then they dropped it, down to 50%, something like 75 or 70% or something like that.
Yeah, I think leading up to, or right before the storms, we were at 380 foot of elevation. The lake's full at 360 or 466. So we were down, 80 feet or whatever that is.
Right.
And the storms hit, we go up 50, we're sitting at like 430 or something like that, mid 430s. And then, they drop it 20 feet and then they raise it back up. And I think we were like right around the 420 foot mark going into it. So basically within a month, the water level had changed, almost 40 feet,
right,
which is ridiculous. I mean, you're basically fishing an entirely new lake because, I don't think anybody was fishing deeper than 40 feet. So,
right.
It's completely new water from what it was in practice.
Now it's also, early February, you're fishing a lake that's just come up and down 40 feet. What was your first thought when you saw this lake and you get out there and you're like, all right, I've been out here a lot. I know what's going on. This is what I'm going to do. What was your first tactic and way to go at this lake?
Yeah. So I dumped my boat in that morning and, of course I had looked at the water level. So I had all my graphs preset and I was kind of looking around at my contour lines and all the waypoints that I have on there. So I kind of knew what was in water and what wasn't. But we dump our boats in the water and the water temp reads like 47 degrees or something like that. And I mean, first thought in my head is like, wow, this is really cold. Cause normally we don't get below 50 degrees on Folsom.
Yeah.
But when we get a lot of rain and snow from the Sierras, it cools that place down pretty quick. But anyways, I went out there and just figured, they're not going to be up to the bank quite yet. It's a little early for that with how cold the water is, but I felt comfortable going into the first day that I could go and fish, rock piles and just basically hit all my waypoints that I had that were in water until I found fish. And sure enough, I roll over to first spot, don't get a bite, whatever, roll over to my second spot. And like 10 minutes in, I catch like 2.5, almost 3 pounder. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, we're set up great. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. I got a 3 pounder in the boat. Everything's going to plan. The nerves kind of go away. I'm like, all right, everything's good. The fish are doing what I thought they were going to do. There's no worries. And then the day just proceeded to absolutely fall apart. I caught like one more short off that same spot and then, went up into the South Fork, fished a bunch of spots up there. didn't really find anything, got no more bites. And I was like, okay, I'll leave the South Fork. I'll go out to the main lake and fish a bunch of rock piles. So went out there, ran, 15 different spots out there, didn't get a bite, or maybe got like one bite, missed it. Then I was like, all right, I'll go check the North Fork. So I run all the way up the North Fork, fish all that stuff, and, hit everything that I know up there. And I'm like, okay, like nothing's working. And came back out or I think I went all the way back into the South Fork after that, and, fell on my face again up there, and then was running back into weigh-in. So I have one fish in the box, running back into weigh-in, and I stop on one spot, make like 5 casts and catch one more keeper. And then it's weigh-in time. And I'm like sitting there on my boat, almost laughing to myself, like, how did I just that bad on my home lake against guys, for the most part, that have never been there? So I'm like, all these guys just embarrassed me. They've never even fished this place. I mean, given they're amazing anglers, so it's no surprise guys were going to catch them. But it's like, I was just in shock, basically, that I did that bad on the home lake the first day.
Bass U, folks. Information is pouring over. If you want to learn more about every lake, how to fish, shallow, deep, in between, skipping docks and rocks and cranking, slow wiggling, chatter, smattering, you get it at Bass U. We got the best of the best. If somebody's ever caught a bass on something and perfected the technique, we got you covered. Get on Bass U TV, check it out, sign up, be a member, be part of it, folks. Keep learning. I'm Gerald Swindle. Subscribe to Bass U.
The hometown jinx set in, right?
yeah, the home lake curse. Because the other thing too is with Apex, I think it's been going for 2+ years, and nobody's won on their home body of water prior to this tournament. So everybody going into it was basically like, are you going to be the one to break the curse that you can't win on your home body? And I'm like, well, now that you say it, it's probably not going to happen. So, so after the first day, I'm like, sure enough, they jinxed me, and now I'm going to fall on my face and come in last place or something like that. But yeah, terrible day one.
So where were you after day one?
I think I was sitting in 17th place.
And how many people were how many people were in the tournament? Let's start that real quick. How many guys?
There were 27.
27. So you were low.
27 qualified. Yeah. Yeah. Very low. Yeah. So, I mean, it was pretty much like, after you got or right around where I was, everybody had 1 or 2 fish. So we're basically all in the same boat at the bottom. And, leading it, there were like 5 bags around 15, 14 pounds, which is a really good bag on Folsom. I mean, that's normally what'll win a one-day tournament out there. So the guys figured them out quick.
So now you're heading into day 2. You're sitting in 17th out of 27. You're feeling really confident about this. What kind of adjustments did you make?
Yeah, so I went home, obviously looked at the standings, saw where I was, and pretty much, came to that conclusion, like I was talking about earlier. I couldn't make it back in on weight. I think I would have had to catch, 23 plus pounds or something like that to make it in for the final day, which a miracle day on Folsom Lake. Absolute miracle. So I pretty much said, there's no way I'm making it on weight. I got to go catch numbers. So, of course, that's also a miracle in itself, because I caught 2 fish the day before, and it's not like I wasn't trying to catch anything that bit. So I was kind of like, hopefully I can find something, but, there's no guarantee. So, went out the next day, decided that I was really just going to slow down. I remember at weigh-in, there were a couple of the guys came up to me. They're like, I saw you all over the lake today. And I was like, yeah, that was probably not a good decision. I was just spent more time driving than I should have. So I decided, I'm just going to go to a couple areas and just stick it out. And, I should be able to get some bites if I really just focus and kind of pick apart these areas that I know should have fish. So I ran up the South Fork to a spot that I had graphed a bunch of fish the first day, pull in there, and I'm fishing right next to Hayden Lee. And he just starts absolutely lighting them up that morning. He had 17 pounds. He weighed in 17 pounds that day, and he caught them all in the first 45 minutes, about 100 yards from me.
Wow.
So I'm like watching him. I literally watch him like boat flip in like 2 4-pounders. And I'm like sitting there right next to him, not even getting a bite. And I'm like, oh my God, what is happening? You know, like,
Yeah.
It's just, everything's not going good. So I decided, pull the trolling motor up. I got to get away from this. I can't just watch Hayden smash him in front of me. So I pulled, a couple 100 yards down the bank to another spot and went on this point that I had found a bunch of fish on, or a couple fish on the day before. And I just started throwing a small swim bait. And just dragging it, basically, just super slow roll over the rocks.
Mm-hmm.
And about, 10 minutes into doing that, I get a bite, put it in the boat, and I'm like, okay, that worked.
Now by
keep fishing that spot.
Now by small swim bait, what are you talking about?
Kitech. So it's throwing a Kitech,
like a 3-inch, 4-inch, 10-inch.
Yeah, 3.3.
Okay.
3.3. So yeah. So I mean, not tiny, but
right.
Pretty small. So anyways, fish that point, end up catching like 4 fish off of it. So got 4 fish in the box, and it kind of dies. And I figured, all right, I'll let the fish reset. So I run out, fish a couple other spots on the way out the South Fork. I think I caught 1 more fish going out there. So I had a limit, and then, fished a couple things on the main lake. Didn't work out for me. So I ran just straight back up to that point, that I caught those fish on in the morning, and just literally parked it pretty much on spot lock on it and fished it for almost the rest of the day. And ended up catching, I think I caught 10 total off of that, plus the 1 other one that I had caught on the way out of the South Fork. So I was sitting at 11 fish, and I decide, I better kind of start heading back towards the weigh-in. So fly back down, and I hit the same exact spot that I had caught my fish on, the last couple minutes on the
right.
first day. So I pull up on that and throw out like 3 casts, and sure enough, get bit again. So I set into that one, get it into the boat. So it was a keeper, 12th fish. I'm like, sweet, caught 12 today. That should be pretty solid. And then, I got like 5 minutes left to fish, and I throw back out, and like, it was like next cast, get another bite. And I'm like, oh my gosh, another one. And reel it all the way up to the boat and put it on the board. And it's literally like in like a millimeter away from touching the line. And I was like massaging the thing, trying to get it to relax. I'm like, just like, all right, just stretch out just a tiny bit more. And it would just barely almost touch, but, trying to take a picture of it, it just never was going to work. So I just ended up having to throw that one back. And I figured going into weigh-in, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's going to be the one that kind of bites me. Just, I'm going to be 1 fish short for the keeper count or something. But thankfully came in, had my 12 keepers. I only weighed like 11 pounds. But I ended up having 14 keepers total, which was enough to put me into 6th place. So qualified for the last day.
So now you go from 17th place to 6th place. You make the top, 10?
Yep, make the top 10.
Make the top 10. It's day 3. You've just taken a bunch of guys out. I know I got calls from people that were just like, oh, I missed it by this and missed it by that. So,
yeah.
But how are you feeling going into day 3, championship day? You're on the brink of, really doing something great on your home lake, and you've maybe found something in a technique or a style that you think you can reproduce the next day. Now the whole count thing is out now. This is all about weight after this, but you had 12 fish for 11 pounds. So you're not sitting on any major weight.
Yeah, no.
So now with this in the day 3, does every fish count, or is it just your best 5?
So yeah, on day 3, what happens is everybody that qualified in the top 10, first 2 days just get wiped clean. It's like they never happened. It's the top 10. All the weights are zeroed. So everybody's starting even playing field, and it's 5 best fish weight. So it's normal tournament style. The last day, it's literally just a 1-day shootout, 5 fish, which is really cool. I mean, that's kind of how they balance where they make the keeper count fair if you qualify on keeper count, because, obviously if the guy's leading it with 30 pounds, even though you caught 20 fish, you know, if you only weigh 5 pounds a day, then, you know, there's no way you'd catch them on the last day. So they zero everything out, even playing field. And then it's just, you know, you got to go out and catch 5 big ones. And that's all that matters.
Now, what kind of adjustment did you end up making between, because now you're throwing a 3.5 inch Kitech on a ball head, and, you know, you're catching 12 fish for 11 pounds, which is, you know, less than a pound each.
That's 5 fish for 11 pounds, actually.
Oh, it was 5 fish for 11 pounds.
Yeah. We don't weigh the keepers. They just have a count.
Oh, okay.
You know, it's just, it doesn't matter if it's 5 pounds or 1 pound. It's just one keeper. And then you still weigh in your 5 best.
Okay. So it's
that
just
was,
5.
I was sitting on 5 fish for 11 pounds, but either way, 5 fish for 11 pounds, that's not going to win it anyway.
No. So what kind of adjustments did you end up making the next day? Or did you make any and just said, hey, I think I can get bigger fish still doing this?
You know, I went up in the morning, and so when I was watching Hayden catch all those fish, he looked at me. He was actually staying at my house. So I had kind of like given him some pointers on the lake and stuff, and then he ends up just like doing his own thing and catches them really good. So he was sitting next to me that second day, catching them on a crankbait, and he looked at me like after he caught 5 like big ones, and he makes a little motion with his hand like a crankbait. So I start throwing a crankbait on it that second day. So anyway, so I was like, okay, maybe I can go out the next morning and catch them on a crankbait, you know, and then I threw on an A-rig because I figured, you know, if I can get a big bite on an A-rig, that might set me up pretty well. So I went out the first hour, burning a crankbait, throwing an A-rig, and, you know, it's like everybody always says, you can't catch somebody else's fish. And sure enough, I couldn't duplicate the crankbait bite he was on, and I couldn't catch him on an A-rig for whatever reason. So about an hour into the morning, I was like, you know what? Screw this. I'm not going to try to, you know, do anything that I'm not comfortable with. I'm going to do what got me here and see what I can do if I can piece together a little bit more of the puzzle. Because I figured, you know, if I can get 12 bites in a day, I can probably catch some quality fish doing it, because it seemed like most of the guys that were in the top weight-wise weren't getting a lot of bites. And of course, you know, there's all the dock talk, and it's not like anybody's doing anything drastically different. I know a lot of the guys in the top 10 were throwing an A-rig or throwing some sort of a shad imitation. So I figured, you know, if I could catch them on that 3.3, I bet I could get a bigger bite somehow. So I went out and so I fished that first hour, sucked trying to catch them on an A-rig and a crankbait. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to go back to the same point that I had caught all my fish on the day before and throw my 3.3 Kitech and see what happens. And like 5 minutes into fishing that point, I get a bite and just lock up with it. And instantly I'm like, oh, wow, this is a good fish. So fight that thing all the way up to the boat, get it in, and it's like a 3.5 pound largemouth.
Wow.
And I'm like, so there was that little jolt of confidence first thing in the morning, you know, that you really need. Like, okay, you know, I may have only gotten small bites on it yesterday, but my first bite today is a 3.5 pounder. And if I can average 3.5 pounders, then I'm golden. You know, that's the tournament right there. That's what you need is 3+ pounders. So I figured, you know, knocked one off the board throwing the 3.3. So really now I'm like fully committed to, and just decide, you know, I'm just going to stick with this. And if I can get one good bite on it, I can get more. So fished the rest of that point. I think I caught 1 or 2 more fish off that ended up being small, you know, like 1.5-pounders or whatever. But I've at least got 3 fish in the boat mid-morning. And at this point, I decide, you know, I'm going to go out to the main lake and fish some of those rock piles. Having, you know, a lot of experience on that lake, I know there's a lot of really solid fish that hang out on the main lake, but it's kind of weird fishing out there because there's so many rock piles that hold fish, but they kind of, you know, have their feeding windows on them. So it's like you could hit a rock pile, not catch anything, and then an hour later, you know, you can catch them off of it. So it's kind of like you just pray you pull up on the right spot at the right time.
Right.
But anyways, pulled up on a spot that I had caught a fish on, I think the first day of the tournament, and sure enough, get bit, and it's like another one little shy of 3 pounds, or I think it was maybe a little bit over 3 pounds. So I'm like, all right, cool. I got 4 fish. 2 of them are good ones that, don't need to be cold. And don't get another bite off that rock pile. I idle over another one that I haven't really ever fished much. It was kind of a new one that I found, and I was like, you know what, I'll fish this thing for a couple minutes. So make like 5 casts out over it and catch like a 270 or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, sweet. I've got a limit. I've got, 11, 12 pounds or whatever, and I've got a lot of room to grow if I can get rid of the 2, pounders that I have.
Well, let me interject right there with this. Do you have basically a score tracker on the last day? Can you see what everybody else is putting out?
For nearly 100 years, Grundens has built gear you can trust to keep you fishing no matter the weather conditions. With head-to-toe coverage of high-performance outerwear, sportswear, footwear, and much more, it's no wonder Grundens products are backed by some of the bass fishing's most prominent figures, such as Skeet Reese, Randall Tharp, Adrian Avina, and Jonathan Van Dam, just to name a few. Grundens. We are fishing.
So we do still run Tourney X. And of course, that is all estimated weights from the anglers. They want us to get as close as we can. So we input our own fish into that, but you also, of course, have the option to not check it.
Okay.
So I looked at it after I had caught that first 3.5 pounder. And there were like a handful of other guys who had caught fish, but it was like, I think Marty Lawrence was leading with like 1 4-pounder or something like that. And that's at like 8:30 in the morning. And after I checked it that first time, I was like, you know what, I'm not going to look at it the rest of the day because it can kind of get in your head. So I was like, I don't want to deal with any of that. I'm just going to go out and do my thing.
So no one's sitting in the back of your boat telling you all the weights that are coming in and what's going on. So you're not feeling super pressured against everybody else.
No. I mean, you don't have that, but I mean, you obviously know that you're fishing against 10 other guys that got to the last day for a reason. Right. So, you're definitely not comfortable. So anyways, I caught that 5th one, feeling good. I'm like, all right, I got a good limit. I've got 2 small ones that I can cull, and it gives me a lot of room to grow if I catch some good fish. So run around a little bit more, don't cull anything or don't catch anything else. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to go hit, this one rock pile. And it was actually the spot that I started on the first morning of the tournament. I hadn't got a bite off of it there, but I was like, it's probably got some fish on it. So maybe I found the right bait and how to fish it, so I roll out to there and fish up to it, not getting any bites. And I get to the rock pile, set the boat up and fire a cast out over it. And I'm just, let it sink down there, flip my bail over and just start the slow roll that I'd been doing. And it's just, I was like creeping this thing over the bottom as slow as you can. It was like, throwing it like you're throwing a big swim bait that slow. And sure enough, reeling it over the rocks. And all of a sudden you just kind of feel that little tick, your line kind of jumps just a tiny bit.
Yeah.
And then it kind of starts to load up and I'm like, okay, there's one, set back into that. And I'm like, instantly, I'm like, oh gosh, this is a good one. It's a real good one. And so I'm just fighting that thing, loosen up the drag, let her kind of do her thing, run, and just kind of baby it and get it up to the boat, get it in the boat. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like a 3 1/4 pounder. So I'm like, throw out a 1 pounder, throw in this thing. I'm sitting at like 14 plus pounds. And I'm like, okay, like as of now, I've got a serious shot at it. But if I can get rid of that last 1.5 pounder, then like, it could really happen. Cause 14.5 was not comfortable with that. Cause there were plenty of bags weighed in 15 plus throughout the event.
Right.
So, cull that fish, retie, re-rig, all that good stuff, get set up and set up on my rock pile again and fire straight back out. Next cast, same thing, just slow rolling it over the rocks. And then all of a sudden you get that same bite, just tick, and it starts to load up, set into it. And I'm like, I was like, instantly, I'm like, oh my gosh, another good one. and reel this thing back and just fight it, take my time. And I could see it down there. I saw it flash and I'm like, oh, if I can get this thing in the boat, like that's the fish right there. That's what I need. And fight it all the way up to the boat. Up just super nice, opens her mouth, and I reach down and I grab her, and I'm sitting on my front deck, kind of like laying down to grab her, pull it in the boat. As soon as I got it in, I basically as loud as I could, and then just laid down on my front deck like in relief.
Yeah.
Because I was like, you never know that you've completely won the tournament, but you got yourself to, the position where it's a real possibility. So
yeah,
I got that thing in the boat and just like all the pressure was finally lifted. And I just laid down and just kind of soaked in the moment for a minute. And of course, then went and culled my fish, made sure it was all good. And at this time it's 1:30. So I've got another 4.5 fish. We got to be in at 3:00. And basically I'm sitting on, my bag, which ended up weighing 16 pounds.
Nice.
And I'm like, really, it's not impossible to cull on that lake at 16 pounds, but it's pretty darn hard when you have all 3-pounders. So I was pretty much just ran around the rest of the day and just fished random stuff. Just like, maybe I'll catch a 5-pounder over here,
Right.
So I was kind of almost just burning time. Honestly, after I got that fish in, I didn't even want to fish anymore. I was so nervous and had so much like just anxiety about going into weigh-in. I was like, I just want to go get this over with. But ended up fishing the rest of the day. Finally, 250 rolls around and I'm like, all right, I'll go in early. So headed into weigh-in, and then of course, all the proceedings start with weigh-in. So it was everything aligned the last day, which you can't ask for anything more than that.
Yeah, you would finally. So it took you basically 2 days to figure out and just lock in that this little 3.5-inch bait was going to give you was hopefully going to give you a chance to become the champion here. And on day 3, it just all clicked, fell into place. You pull 5 3-pounders into your boat, and you're pretty much, or most close to 3-pounders, and you're pretty much set up to go in. And now you're walking up. And how are you weighing in? Are you first, second? I mean, is it like by how you got there, or what place you were in when you showed up? How are they bringing it in?
Yeah, so they kind of line us up based off of how your day went almost. Okay. So usually, the guys who have the bigger bags are kind of told, go to the back of the line, basically.
Right.
Because they kind of want to build the suspense throughout the weigh-in.
Yeah.
So I think, I came up and gave my fish to the guys at the tournament. Because of course, they do check your fish, make sure they're all alive and that stuff. So that's how they know. So they're like, all right, go get in like third to last from line. And I'm like, okay. So I was like, all right, cool. Like, I'm in the end, which is a good thing.
Right.
But I'm not the last one. So I'm like, maybe somebody behind me caught him pretty good. But anyway, so we're in line and everybody kind of talks in line. So we kind of all like check each other's fish out, and see what each other got. And I remember standing there in line and Nick Cloutier was behind me and he shows me, I was like, what do you got? And he's like, I got a pretty good bag. I got a 4-pounder. And then he's like, I got some ones that are probably around 3 to go with it. And I was like, oh crap, that's going to make it close. So sure enough, he opens his bag up and shows me it, like the 4-pounder is just like laying on top, covering all his other fish. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like that might kill me right there. So that was terrifying. And then, there were a couple other guys in the weigh-in line that had some pretty good fish too. So I was not, not feeling comfortable in weighing at all.
Confidence got eradicated a little bit.
Oh yeah. And the last day takes forever for weigh-in, because everybody's up there on the stage that, giving their speeches, which is great. But it's like when you're waiting to weigh in and you got a shot at winning, it's like the most excruciating thing you could sit through.
Yeah.
Because you just want to get it over with and see what happens. sure enough, I think I was the 8th guy to weigh in. 1380 something was leading when I got up, and I ended up weighing 1616. So took over the hot seat, and then there were just 2 guys left. It was Nick and Marty Lawrence, and Nick ended up coming up with his 4-pounder and all the rest of his fish. And for me, it was a little light. He weighed 1360 something, and then the last guy was Marty, and he came up and weighed, I think, 11 something, I want to say, or maybe 12 something, and then that was it. Yeah,
got to breathe a deep sigh of relief, and now you know why you were put third and not last.
Yeah, I guess so.
There's the build up. Yeah. You know, there's still got to be a couple guys that, you know, but I mean, I guess that's how, you know, you break down a good tournament. I mean, you're on your home lake, you finally do break that jinx, I guess, a little bit. You get a win on your home lake. That had to feel pretty good.
Oh yeah, it felt incredible. I mean, Folsom gets neglected for tournaments. I mean, it's a smaller lake, so I get why, you know, we don't have a pro-am there or something like that. But you know, it holds a lot of really good fish in it. I know a lot of guys hate fishing it because it's tough, but I think that's what that's what made me the angler I am, was fishing that lake, because it changes so fast, and it's such a puzzle. I mean, the water levels change, the fish are weird, and you know, they don't play by the rule book very often, so you really got to kind of think outside the box on that place. And so to win there, and of course, you know, my family was there. I had a bunch of my friends show up. And I think we had like the biggest crowd for any Apex event yet. So everything was just like really awesome about winning there. Right. And I mean, the other really cool thing I had kind of been thinking about for a while after they announced it was, this was my last tournament in the boat that I had been fishing out of for the last 3 or 4 years. I'd been running a 1996 Skeeter. So I started with it when I did the Pro-Ams. So I had won a regular season event out of it. I had won the Wild West Angler of the Year trophy out of it. And then the last one that I had kept telling myself I got to win at some point was a championship. So the last day that I ever fished out of that boat, I was the last day of the championship. So I got to fish the last day out of that thing and knock off the final trophy on the bucket list and kind of complete my my trifecta out of that boat, which was super, super cool. So and now it's kind of sad that I have to sell the boat, but you know.
And what are you going to now?
I had bought a 2015 Skeeter ZX 225 like 3 weeks before that tournament. So I hadn't got it rigged out yet, so I wasn't fishing out of that one yet. So I'm just had one last glory ride in the old Skeeter.
I was gonna say, so you brought your Lucky Charm with you just to make sure that you put everything you could into winning this event.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it all lined up perfect and was just like, it was the icing on the cupcake for that boat. So yeah, it's been a lot of good memories out of that thing. It's kind of sad I'm selling it, but yeah, I think I've got kind of the famous red carpet in it, which everybody always gives me crap for. So I think before I sell it, I'm going to cut a tiny little piece of the red carpet out and put it in the new boat. You know, that way I got a little memory of that thing in there for the rest of the time I'm in the new one.
There you go. I mean, the person who buys that boat's more than likely going to rip it out and not keep it anyway.
I don't blame them. Yeah, it's. I don't know. Skeeter was not thinking straight when they put the red carpet in those things, because they show every bit of fish slime or anything that touches them.
At least it's not shag on top of that, right?
I don't know. Shag would be pretty cool though.
Right?
I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it'd be really tough to get all the hooks out of, but you know, it'd be great. It'd be great for laying.
Yeah, that's true.
Great for laying on and screaming when you win your tournament.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you know, we're getting towards the end here. You have such a good story, man. You know, coming up from using, I want to say, every asset out there and kind of doing this, the tough way, high school, college on up, making really utilizing and getting out there, making that. Why don't you tell us a little about some of the guys who, the sponsors and things and the people that have been behind you through this whole, nice excursion you have?
Yeah, no. So I mean, first people I always got to thank are my parents. They've supported me relentlessly throughout this whole thing from when I first started fishing in ponds. My dad would go drop me off there and just let me fish for hours. And I mean, he uses a wheelchair, so he couldn't even, he can't go down to the pond and fish. So he'd literally just sit in the truck and watch me fish for hours. And then, my mom would be driving me to tournaments. They'd both be driving me to tournaments before I could drive. My dad would tow the boat over to the lake because I had a boat before I had a driver's license. So, they've been since day one. And they show up to pretty much every weigh-in. So that was one of the best parts about winning was I got to lift the trophy in front of them.
Yeah.
And then on top of them, I got to thank, a lot of the other anglers that I get to fish with. I've had some really great mentors throughout the years that have helped guide me in the right direction. Because when you get into this fishing scene, it's a lot of money and it's a lot of time, and there's a lot of things that you could do wrong that'll cost you. So to have, a lot of really good anglers kind of help guide me when I was young and didn't know what I was doing made a huge difference.
Right.
I mean, there are countless guys, but it's been great. And then I also gotta give a little bit of a shout out to the younger guys too. I know me and Alex always, Alex Klein, we always joke about the young guns. We always try to beat these older guys that have been doing it forever. And I know there's a lot of really other good young guys like Colby, Christian, of course, Hayden Lee, and so we always have a good time, and it's fun hanging out with all those guys at the tournaments, and we kind of push each other, and help support each other as good as we can, because these guys that have been doing it for 40 or 50 years have a little bit of that edge on us sometimes, so we gotta show them we can beat them every now and then.
Yeah.
But as far as companies go, sponsorship wise, I don't want to talk too long about it, but I do have some really great companies that have helped me out over the years. From the start, after I won the Pro-Am on New Melones, I was contacted by Yamamoto, and they sponsored me right after that win, and they've been with me since then. They've been a great company to work for or work with, and they make the best products soft bait wise ever. So to be able to fish with, or be sponsored by a company that you really believe in too is amazing. And for them to be super supportive of what I do is, of course, top notch. And of course with them, they were bought out by GSM. So they also bought Bill Lewis. So they're a newly acquired one for me this year. And then I've got a couple other new ones this year, Sunline and Owner Hooks. They've been awesome. And then Picasso baits. I threw a lot of, I did throw that Kitech on an Owner football head, and then also on the Picasso head. So, those really helped me out in this event. And then the other big one I got to give a shout out to has been CNC Marine. Like I said, I ran that 1996 Skeeter, and I ran that thing hard for 3 years. So Jeremy, Jordan, John and Sheldon and all the rest of the guys up there at CNC Marine, they always took and still do take, great care of me. I mean, I literally call them on, a day and they'll be like, okay, bring the boat in tomorrow. They always make time for me and help get me back out on the water fast, and they do great work. So if you guys are in the market for a new boat, or, you're just looking to get work done, give them a call because they really do top-notch work. And then, another one that just came on board this year is Better Bench, which is actually a family friends company, and they're, it's kind of a random one, not in the fishing community,
hey,
but
we need non-endemics to push this sport forward, man.
Yeah, exactly. So that's gonna be a fun one to run on the boat this year, and of course they're great friends of me and my entire family. So, should be a pretty good year. I'm really looking forward to growing my relationships with these companies. And then the other one is Garmin. I'm actually waiting. That was one of the reasons I wasn't in the new boat, is I'm waiting on 3 new 12-inch Echo maps.
Oh, nice.
And all the works for the new boat. So as soon as that comes in, new Skeeter is going to be all rigged out, and it'll be ready to rock. So it'll be pretty fun.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, having the support out there going forward, wherever you decide to go with your career. But do want to remember one thing, you're talking about the young guns and all that. You're going to start getting old here soon. So remember, guys are going to start chasing you a little bit harder now. And now you've got, a major win on your line. You've got an Angler of the Year, and you've got a championship. Guys are going to be gunning a little bit for you. So, you can talk about the old guys.
I figured. I figured I got a couple more years left on the young side, and then once I hit my 30s or something like that, then it's going to be looking a little dicey for that.
Yeah,
so,
yep. You just become
I got to make it count while it lasts. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, Luke, man, congratulations on all your success so far. We look forward to watching you this year. Anybody that wants to watch some guy on the West Coast that's doing good, maybe coming up and going out on the East Coast and trying to do his best to chase after those old guys. Pay attention to the Wild West Tour, the Apex Tour. You can follow him also on social media, and he'll give you right now what his social media stuff is.
Yeah, so on Facebook, just Luke Johns. I'm on there. And then Instagram is probably the main one, and the one that I'm the best at checking. So if you ever want to get a hold of me, get a hold of me on there. And that's LJ_Bass. The 2 best ways to contact me.
All right, Luke. Well, thank you, man, for coming on. I love to hear the story. It was, it's that time of year. There's not a whole lot going on right now. Everything's getting ready to really kick off hard. You just came back from one of the Wild West Tour up on Oroville. And, you talk about a lake that doesn't kick out a lot of big fish. But what happened at that one really quick? I mean, was there any big fish caught up there?
There was one that was insane. Yeah, the almost 13-pounder that guy caught. That's absolutely bonkers. I could not believe that.
Yeah, that's another lake that like 15 pounds will always get you close to a win or a check. And a guy walks in and drops almost 13-pounder on the scales.
Yeah. I think JR was leading with like 1280 the first day, and that dude weighed in. I think that one was 1280 something. So I mean, it's a whole bag of fish in one fish.
Right.
I mean, just absolutely nuts. But I won't talk too much about how I finished there because it was not good. So I got served the humble pie after winning on Folsom.
There's always a letdown, right? So.
Yeah, exactly. I figured it couldn't last too long, but yeah.
All right, man. Well, hey, congratulations again. We'll watch you on the tour out there this year. We'll be paying attention to you, watching you come up. And I'll tell you what, do it again, and we're gonna have to have you back on talking a little bit more about some of the seasons and how you're doing so well and how you're getting there. So, good luck with everything. I hope you graduate, soon, and I'd love to see the rest of your fishing career as it goes on. So,
well, thank you. Yeah. Thanks for having me. I mean, it's always fun to come on the show. And I mean, it's always really good to come on the show because it means I did something good. So,
right.
Hopefully I'll be back soon.
Yeah, that's what we hope for. So, all right, guys, thanks for tuning in tonight. We had Luke Johns, great story, gives you a little bit of insight on how to win a tournament, how to kind of go at it in the winter. Some of the major, changes he took, what he did, how he attacked a lake that he fishes all the time. So hopefully you learned a little bit something about this one, and we'll see you in a couple weeks with our next show, and we'll have another great angler. So Luke, thanks for coming in again.
Thank you. I appreciate it.